To the Supreme God, to the Great Divine Father and the Great Divine Mother, thank you for your priceless blessings, for your divine light, divine love, divine power, divine healing, guidance, mercy, help, and protection. Thank you. To our great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones, we incredibly humbly thank you for your great blessings. We thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Special thanks to the great Ramakrishna and to his great disciple, Master M. We very humbly thank you for your precious love and for the great guidance in the form of teachings in this book. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Let's go forward. To develop the devotee's love for God, Vaishnavism humanizes God. God is to be regarded as the devotee's parent, master, friend, child, husband, or sweetheart. Each succeeding relationship representing an intensification of love. Remember, God के लिए बोलते हैं कि तुम ही हो माता पिता, तुम ही हो बंधु and sakha तुम ही हो, right? Like each level represents intensification of the love. मीराबाई का जो था वो स्वीट हार्ट वाला था, right? I think from husband all the way till sweetheart, I think. Anyways, an intensification of love. These bhavas or attitudes towards God are known as Santa Das. Santa matlab Sant, Das, Sakha, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhur. The rishis of the Vedas, Hanuman, the cowherd of boys of Vrindavan, Rama's mother Kaushalya, and Radhika, Krishna's sweetheart, exhibited respectively the most perfect examples. See, Krishna's sweetheart, so powerful, Radhika. Respect, exhibited respectively the most perfect examples of these forms. In the ascending scale, the glories of God are gradually forgotten, and the devotee realizes more and more the intimacy of divine communion. Finally, he regards himself as the mistress of his beloved. Finally, मतलब ये कि devotee जो है लास्ट में अपने आप को he regards as the wife or as a bride. The female to the male. It's always like that. That's why if you ever see, we praise the Shivlinga. The Shivlinga is the masculine or the male aspect from the soul, you know. And let's go forward. Finally, he regards himself as the mistress of his beloved, and no artificial barrier remains to separate him from his ideal. No social or moral obligation can bind to the earth his soaring spirit. He experiences perfect union with the Godhead, unlike the Vedantist, who strives to transcend all varieties of the subject-object relationship. A devotee of the Vaishnava path wishes to retain both his own individuality and the personality of God. To him, God is not an intangible absolute, but the Purushottama, the supreme person. पुरुषोत्तम का मतलब है पुरुष उत्तम और या फिर उत्तम पुरुष. That's the supreme person. So this is good, no? Through love, you can actually attain oneness with God, is what they're saying, which is true also. Whereas with the intellectual analysis, you don't reach that far, right? Let's go forward. While practicing the disciple of Madhur Bhav, the male devotee often regards himself as a woman in order to develop the most intense form of love for Sri Krishna, the only Purusha or man in the universe. This assumption of the attitude of the opposite sex has a deep psychological significance. It is a matter of common experience that an idea may be cultivated to such an intense degree that every idea alien to it is driven from the mind. This peculiarity of the mind may be utilized for the subjugation of the lower desires and the development of the spiritual nature. Now, the idea, which is the basis of all desires and passions in a man, is the conviction of his indissoluble association with the male boy, with the male body. If he can inoculate himself thoroughly with the idea that he is a woman, he can get rid of the desires peculiar to his male body. Again, the idea that he is a woman may in turn be made to give way to another higher idea, namely that he is neither man nor woman, but the impersonal spirit. The impersonal spirit alone can enjoy real communion with the impersonal God. Hence, the highest realization of the Vaishnava draws close to the transcendental experience of the Vedantist. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? वो ये बता रहा चाह रहे इतनी देर से कि वेदांतिस्ट जो है वो ड्राई नॉलेज को का वो करता है क्या बोलता ही उसके लिए ड्राई नॉलेज बहुत अहम है बिकॉज उसमें इंटेलेक्चुअल सेटिस्फैक्शन है बट वो तरह कि भगवान का जो रस है एक्चुअल यूनियन का जो रस है वो वैष्णविज्म में मिलता है वैष्णविज्म को बेसिक मतलब यह है कि वेयर लव ऑफ गॉड इज प्रैक्टिस्ड वहां मिलता है जाके आगे चलते हैं अ ब्यूटीफुल एक्सप्रेशन अच्छा बाय द वे उन्होंने एक बात और बताई है वो बात ये है कि सपोज कीजिए कि आपको जो है यू आर अ फीमेल और अगर आपको अपनी फीमेल बॉडी से डी अटैच करना है अगर तो आप क्या करेंगे आप जो है अपने आप को एज अ मैन दैट यूर अ मैन वो आइडिया लेके आएंगे अपने अंदर एंड आप उस आइडिया को कल्टिवेट करेंगे प्रॉपरली हर फॉर्म में हर एक्सप्रेशन में तो फेमिनिटी की जो क्वालिटीज है वो निकल जाती हैं उसके बाद या एसोसिएशन टू आई एम अ फीमेल आई एम अ बॉडी वो निकल जाता है उसके बाद व्हेन यू री लुक एट दैट आई एम अ वुमन देन उसके बाद यू कम टू स्टेट कि आई एम एक्चुअली नॉट अ मैन एंड नॉट अ वुमन वो ये बता रहे हैं कि इस नॉन एसोसिएटेड स्टेट में या फिर क्या बोलना चाहिए नॉन ड्यूअल स्टेट में नॉट मैन नॉट वुमन वाली स्टेट में you reach a stage where you say, okay, I'm not man, I'm not woman, so the identification with the God that is not man or woman also becomes possible. A beautiful expression of the Vaishnava worship of God through love is to be found in the Vrindavan episode of the Bhagavata. The gopis or milkmaids of Vrindavan regarded the 6-year-old Krishna as their beloved. They sought no personal gain or happiness from this love. They surrendered to Krishna their bodies, minds, and souls. Of all the gopis, Radhika or Radha, because of her intense love for him, was the closest to Krishna. She manifested the Mahabhav and was united with her beloved. This union represents through sensuous language or supersensuous love. Sri Chaitanya, also known as the Gauranga, Gora or Nimai, born in Bengal, 1485 and regarded as an incarnation of God, is the great prophet of the Vaishnava religion. Chaitanya declared the chanting of God's name to be the most efficacious spiritual discipline of the Kali Yuga. Sri Ramakrishna, as the monkey Hanuman, had already worshipped God as his master through his devotion to Kali. He had worshipped God as his mother. He was now to take up the other relationship prescribed by the Vaishnava scriptures. Ram Lala. About the year 1864, there came to Dakshineshwar a wandering Vaishnava monk, Jatadhari, whose ideal deity was Rama. He always carried with him a small metal image of the deity, which he called by the endearing name of Ram Lala, the boy Rama. Towards toward this little image, he displayed the tender affection of Kaushalya for her divine son, Rama. As a result of lifelong spiritual practice, he had actually found in the metal image the presence of his ideal. Ramlala was no longer for him a metal image, but a living god. He devoted himself to nursing Rama, feeding Rama, playing with Rama, taking Rama for a walk, and bathing Rama. And he found that the image responded to his love. अब इस पर थोड़ी सी बात कर लेते हैं हम एक इन बुक्स में से कोई एक बुक आई थिंक थी इन तीनों में से जिसमें ये दिया था कि मुझे एग्जैक्टली याद नहीं। हाँ, लेटर फ्रॉम नॉकल मेडिटेशन में दिया हुआ था। ये वाली बुक में दिया हुआ था कि अम, उसको बोलते हैं पर्सोनिफिकेशन ऑफ अ डेटी। इंग्लिश में पर सेम चीज लिखी हुई है कि जो है कि आप जो है जब स्पिरिचुअली अपने पाथ पे प्रोग्रेस करते हैं तो इष्ट देवता, उसमें इंग्लिश में लिखा था इष्ट देवता और योर डेटी करके। इष्ट देवता जो है इज द वन विच इज क्लोजेस्ट टू यू बाय द वे। तो जो लोग भी डीप मेडिटेशन करते हैं वो अपने इष्ट देवता को अपने हार्ट में या हार्ट चक्र में जहाँ पे है उस एरिया में इमेजिन करके जो अपनी जो प्रेयर्स हैं उनको दे कैन रेगुलरली डू, या उन अपनी जो मंत्र चांटिंग है या जो कुछ भी है वो अपने हार्ट में अपने डेटी को इमेजिन करके दे कैन डू। सोली 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 जैसे जैसे लव की एनर्जी बढ़ने लगती है, राइज करने लगती है, ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम ऑटोमेटिकली ये डीटी की एनर्जी जो है ऊपर आ जाती है, यहाँ तक आ जाती है पूरी की पूरी। सो वो जो पिलर ऑफ लाइट जो है वो कंप्लीटली कंस्ट्रक्ट हो जाता है। एनीवे, सो ये क्यों क्यों बता रहे हैं? क्योंकि ये जो क्या बोलते हैं वैष्णविज्म का जो पाथ है जहाँ पे कि यू गो फ्रॉम दिस हार्ट ऑल द वे टू द क्राउन वाला जो पाथ है उसमें इतना इंटेंस एक्सटेसी एंड ब्लिस है जो कि प्रैक्टिकली अनइमेजिनेबल है। आपने कभी शिवाइट्स को मतलब यू हैवंट हर्ड टॉकिंग अबाउट इंटेंस एक्सटेसी एंड ब्लिस, राइट? बट वैष्णविज्म का पाथ एक्चुअली इंटेंस एक्सटेसी एंड ब्लिस का ही पाथ है। वेदांतिन्स जो भी हैं उनको भी उन्होंने भी आपने कभी ये नहीं सुना होगा कि जो है वो इंटेंस एक्सटेसी एंजॉय का पाथ वो भी नहीं है एक्चुअली। वैष्णविज्म वाला पाथ है वो। सो इसीलिए आप देख रहे हैं कि जटाधारी जो हैं उन्होंने अपने डेटी रामा जो है उसको इतना ज़्यादा प्यार किया या इतना ज़्यादा डिवोट हो गए उसके पीछे कि दैट इमेज बिकेम ए लिविंग इमेज। उस बुक में भी यही दिया हुआ है कि जैसे जैसे आप अपने इष्ट देवता को यू स्टार्ट ऑफरिंग मोर मोर लव, मोर मोर लव, मोर मोर लव, दैट बीइंग विल बिकम अलाइव इन योर हार्ट, और दैट इमेज दैट यू हैव enshrined will actually come into life। ये उसमें भी दिया हुआ है। सो दिस इज गिवन एवरीवेयर एक्चुअली। ये एक स्टैंडर्ड प्रोसीजर है, बट इट्स born आउट ऑफ एब्सोल्यूट प्योर लव। अमेजिंग स्टफ दो। आगे चलते हैं। Sri Ramakrishna, much impressed with his devotion, requested Jatadhari to spend a few days at Dakshineshwar. Soon Ramlala became the favorite companion of Sri Ramakrishna too. Later on, he described to the devotees how the little image would dance gracefully before him, jump on his back, insist on being taken in arms, run to the fields in the sun, pluck flowers from the bushes, and play pranks like a naughty boy. A very sweet relationship sprang up between him and Ramlala, for whom he felt the love of a mother. One day, Jatadhari requested Sri Rama to keep the image and bade him adieu with tearful eyes. He declared that Ramlala had fulfilled his innermost prayer, that he now had no more the need of formal worship. A few days later, Sri Ramakrishna was blessed through Ramlala with a vision of Ramachandra. Thereby, he realized that the Rama of the Ramayana, the son of Dashrath, pervades the whole universe as a spirit and consciousness, that he is its creator, sustainer, and destroyer. That in still another aspect, he is the transcendental Brahman without without form, attribute, or name. Wow. Wow. While worshipping Ramlala as a divine child, Sri Ramakrishna's heart became filled with motherly tenderness. See, while worshipping Ramlala, that little photograph, right? A live photograph as a divine child, Sri Ramakrishna's heart became filled with motherly tenderness and he began to regard himself as a woman. His speech and gestures changed. He began to move freely with the ladies of Mathur's family, who now looked upon him as one of their own sex. During this time, he worshipped the Divine Mother as her companion or handmaid. Wow, that's amazing, yeah. In communion with the Divine Beloved. Sri Ramakrishna now devoted himself to scaling the most inaccessible and dizzy heights of dualistic worship, namely the complete union with Sri Krishna as the beloved of the heart. He regarded himself as one of the gopis of Vrindavan, mad with longings for her divine sweetheart. At his request, Mathur provided him with woman's dress and jewelry. In this love pursuit, food and drink were forgotten. Day and night he wept bitterly. The yearning turned into a mad frenzy, for the divine Krishna began to play with him the old tricks he had played with the gopis. He would tease and taunt, now and then revealing himself, but always keeping a distance. Ramakrishna's anguish brought on a return of the old physical symptoms, the burning sensation and oozing of the blood on a return of the old, oozing of the blood through the pores, a loosening of the joints, and the stopping of physiological functions. The Vaishnava scriptures advise one to propitiate Radha and obtain her grace in order to realize Sri Krishna. So the tortured devotee now turned his prayer to her. Within a short time, he enjoyed her blessed vision. He saw and felt the figure of Radha disappearing into his own body. He said later on, "It is impossible to describe the heavenly beauty and sweetness of Radha. Her very appearance showed that she had completely forgotten herself in her passionate attachment to Krishna. The complexion was a light yellow. Now, Now, one with Radha, he manifested the ecstatic love, the Mahabhav, which had found in her its fullest expression. Later, Sri Ramakrishna said the manifestation in the same individual of the 19 different kinds of emotion for God is called in the books on Bhakti Mahabhav. An ordinary man takes a whole lifetime to express even a single of these, but in his body, meaning himself, there has been a complete manifestation of all 19. The love of Radha is the precursor of the resplendent vision of Sri Krishna, and Sri Ramakrishna soon experienced that vision. The enchanting form of Krishna appeared to him and merged in his person. He became Krishna. He became Krishna. See, it says the enchanting form of Krishna appeared to him and merged in his person. That's why his name is Radha Krishna, right? I mean, of course, right? Ramakrishna. I think because he experienced the Rama and the Krishna both, not Radha. Sorry. The enchanting form of Krishna appeared to him and merged in his person. He became Krishna. He totally forgot his own individuality and the world. He saw Krishna in himself and in the universe, thus he attained to the fulfillment of the worship of personal God. He drank from the fountain of immortal bliss. The agony of his heart vanished forever. He realized Amrit, immortality beyond the shadow of death. Wow. One day, listening to a recitation of the Bhagavata on the veranda of the Radhakanta temple, he fell into a divine mood and saw the enchanting form of Krishna. He perceived the luminous rays issuing from Krishna's lotus feet in the form of a stout robe, which touched first the Bhagavata and then his own chest, connecting all three, God, the scripture, and the devotee. After his vision, he used to say, I came to realize that Bhagwan, Bhakta, and Bhagavata, God, devotee, and the scripture, are in reality one and the same. Wow. How cool, man. Vedanta, the Brahmani, the enthusiastic, the Brahmani, Brahmani was tantric teacher, right? जिन्होंने ये prove किया था कि he is a God incarnate, right? The Brahmani was the enthusiastic teacher and astonished beholder of Sri Ramakrishna in his spiritual progress. She became proud of the achievements of her unique pupil, but the pupil himself was not permitted to rest. His destiny beckoned him forward. His divine mother would allow him no respite till he had left behind the entire realm of duality with its visions, experiences, and ecstatic dreams. But for the new ascent, the old tender guides would not suffice. The Brahmani on whom he had depended for 3 years saw her son escape from her to follow the command of a teacher with masculine strength. Oh wow, we'll again read this. This is amazing. I think it's her part of the story actually. So it says ki, his divine mother would allow him no respite till he had left behind the entire realm of duality with its visions, experiences, and ecstatic dreams. But for the new ascent, the old tender guides would not suffice. The Brahmani on whom he had depended for 3 years saw her son escape from her to follow the command of a teacher with masculine strength. A sterner mien, a gnarled physique, and virile voice. The new guru was a wandering monk, the sturdy Totapuri. This is a very known person, by the way, Totapuri. So क्या हुआ था? I'll tell you. So what is happening is before Totapuri came into the scene, um, he had grown as much as he could grow in the world of form. अभी भी वो ड्युअलिटी से मुक्त नहीं हुए थे, मतलब वो कभी यहाँ कभी यहाँ कभी यहाँ कभी यहाँ वो हो रहा था, ठीक है, नॉट अ कंप्लीट यूनियन अप अंटिल नाउ. तो जो फीमेल जो टीचर थी, शी वॉज नॉट एबल टू गिव एज और द राइट काइंड ऑफ सपोर्ट आफ्टर द प्रोग्रेस विच शी हैड मेड. इसके बाद की जो प्रोग्रेस होनी थी उसके लिए एक डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ टीचर चाहिए था. एंटर्स तोतापुरी. ओके. तोतापुरी, whom Sri Ramakrishna learned to address affectionately as Nangta, the naked one, because of his total renunciation of all earthly objects and attachments, including even a piece of wearing cloth. Nangta. Totapuri was the bearer of a philosophy new to Sri Ramakrishna, the non dualistic Vedanta philosophy, whose conclusions Totapuri had experienced in his own life. This ancient Hindu system designates the ultimate reality as Brahman, also described as Satchidananda, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Brahman is the only real existence. In it, there is no time, no space, no causality, no multiplicity. But through Maya, its inscrutable power, time, space, and causality are created, and the one appears to break into the many. The eternal spirit appears as a manifold of the individuals endowed with form and subject to the conditions of time. द इमोर्टल अभी ये बता रहे हैं वेदांता फिलोसफी के बारे में. द इमोर्टल बिकम्स अ विक्टिम ऑफ बर्थ एंड डेथ. द चेंजलेस अंडरगोज चेंज. The sinless pure soul, hypnotized by its own Maya, experiences the joys of heaven and the pains of hell. But these experiences, based on the duality of the subject object relationship, are unreal. Even the vision of a personal God is ultimately speaking as illusory as the experience of any other object. Man attains his liberation, therefore, by piercing the veil of Maya and rediscovering his total identity with Brahman. Knowing himself to be one with the universal spirit, he realizes ineffable peace. Only then does he go beyond the fiction of birth and death. Only then does he become immortal. And this is the ultimate goal of all religions, to dehypnotize the soul, now hypnotized by its own ignorance. Interesting, no? The path of the Vedantic discipline is the path of negation, niti, negation, in which, by stern determination, all that is unreal is both negated and renounced. जैसे कि I'm not the body, so I will not address the needs of the body anymore, right? I'm not the emotions, I will not bother so much about what pleases me or displeases me, right? I'm not the mind, I'm not this. So they adopt mechanisms like that. It is the path of gnana, knowledge, the direct method of realizing the absolute. After the negation of everything relative, including the discriminating ego itself, the aspirant merges in the one without a second, in the bliss of nirvikalp samadhi, where subject and object are alike dissolved. The soul goes beyond the realm of thought. The domain of duality is transcended. Maya is left behind with all its changes and modifications. The real man towers above the delusions of creation, preservation, and destruction. An avalanche of indescribable bliss sweeps away all relative ideas of pain and pleasure, good and evil. There shines in the heart and the glory of the eternal Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Knower, knowledge, and known are dissolved in the ocean of eternal consciousness. Love, lover, and beloved merge in the unbounded sea of supreme felicity. Birth, growth, and death vanish in the infinite existence. All doubts and misgivings are quelled forever. The oscillations of the mind are stopped, and the momentum of the past actions is exhausted, breaking down the rich pole of the tabernacle in which the soul has made its abode for untold ages, splitting the body, calming the mind, drowning the ego, and the sweet joy of Brahman wells up in the superconscious state. Space disappears into nothingness. A time is swallowed in eternity, and causation becomes a dream of the past. Only existence is, मतलब only सत is. सत अकेला वो हो जाता है, the truth. Ah, who can describe what the soul then feels in its communion with itself? Even when man descends from this dizzy height, he is devoid of the eye and the mind. He looks down on the body as a mere shadow, an outer sheath encasing the soul. He does not dwell on the past, takes no thought for the future, and looks with indifference on the present. See? He does not dwell on the past, takes no thought for the future, and looks with indifference on the present. He surveys everything in the world with an eye of equality. He is no longer touched by the infinite variety of phenomena. He no longer reacts to pleasure and pain. He remains unmoved whether he, that is to say, his body, is worshipped by the good or tormented by the wicked, for he realizes that it is the one Brahman that manifests itself through everything. The impact of such an experience devastates the body and mind. Consciousness becomes blasted, as it were, with an excess of light. In the Vedanta books, it is said that after the experience of Nirvikalp Samadhi, the body drops off like a dry leaf. Only those who are born with a special mission for the world can return from this height to the valleys of normal life. They live and move in the world for the welfare of mankind. They are invested with a supreme spiritual power. A divine glory shines through them. तो बेसिकली वो बता रहे हैं कि when you become arhat or maybe even higher, तो आपका जो सिस्टम होता है that can render almost pure divine glory. और उसमें मतलब बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं कि वहां पहुंच तो जाते हैं बट इतना ब्लिस होता है वहां पे दैट्स टोटल न्यू लाइफ जिससे कि अब वहां से कोई वापस आता नहीं है. उसको बुद्धिस्ट मॉन्क जो होते हैं इन लोगों को बोलते हैं सेल्फिश मॉन्क्स कि जो खुद तो पहुंच गए हमको लेके नहीं गए मतलब समथिंग लाइक दैट राइट. बट सच बात है कि उस मतलब इट इज़ वेरी नोन फैक्ट अमंगस्ट एवरी मेडिटेशन कल्चर की जहाँ पे कि इफ़ यू रीच द निर्विकल्प समाधि जहाँ पे आपकी विल होती ही नहीं है, where you reach a very powerful state of expansion, वहां से वापस आने का कोई मतलब ही नहीं बनता एक्चुअली. इसलिए बहुत सारे बॉन्ग उसी समाधि में दे लीव समथिंग लाइक दैट. या बट हम जिस चीज़ की बात कर रहे हैं हम ये बात कर रहे हैं कि इतनी पावरफुल स्टेट ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस पॉसिबल है जहाँ पे कि वर्ड्स डोंट डू जस्टिस. यू नो वो तो बहुत दूर की बात हो गई. इवन इफ यू अटेन व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एस्ट्रल कॉन्शियसनेस जो कि नेक्स्ट लेवल की कॉन्शियसनेस है, आपके सामने अगर पूरा का पूरा एस्ट्रल वर्ल्ड अगर ओपन हो जाएगा तो यू कैन डू वर्क विच इज अनथॉट ऑफ अप अंटिल नाउ. सोचा ही नहीं किया उसके ऊपर. मतलब यू कैन see phenomena happening which is about to happen. You'll be able to meet with civilizations in the astral world. You'll be able to interact with people, learn so many things from them, make friends which are, by the way, not humans. You can travel in the inner world. You can go to places which are restricted places जहाँ पे humans को physical world में जाने की इजाज़त नहीं है. Many things can be done. Many things can be done by the way. A lot of these things are possible when you have advanced consciousness. अब ये सोचो खाली एस्ट्रल है. अगर हम बात करें मेंटल लेवल की जो कि उसके ऊपर जाके आता है, फिर कॉजल लेवल की, फिर बुद्धिक लेवल की, फिर आत्मिक, तो हम अभी जो बात कर रहे हैं वो मतलब कर रहे थे इसके पहले वो आत्मिक लेवल की कॉन्शियसनेस की है, निर्वाणिक लेवल की कॉन्शियसनेस की है. इसको बोलते हैं निर्विकल्प समाधि. इट्स एब्सोल्युटली phenomenal. Totapuri arrived at the Dakshineshwar temple garden toward the end of 1864. Perhaps born in Punjab, he was the head of a monastery in that province of India and claimed leadership of 700 sannyasins. Trained from early youth in the disciplines of Advaita Vedanta, he looked upon the world as an illusion. The gods and goddesses of the dualistic worship were to him mere fantasies of the deluded mind. Prayers, ceremonies, rites, and rituals had nothing to do with true religion, and about these he was utterly indifferent. Exercising self exertion and unshakable willpower, he had liberated himself from attachment to the sense objects of the relative universe. For 40 years, he had practiced austere discipline on the bank of the sacred Narmada and had finally realized his identity with the Absolute. Thenceforward, he roamed in the world as an unfettered soul, a lion free from the cage, clad in a loincloth. He spent his days under the canopy of the sky alike in storm and sunshine, feeding his body on the slender pittance of alms. He had been visiting the estuary of the Ganges on his return along the bank of sacred river. Led by the inscrutable divine will, he stopped at Dakshineshwar. See, led by the divine will, he stopped at Dakshineshwar. Matlab, God brought him there, basically speaking. Totapuri, discovering at once that Sri Ramakrishna was prepared to be a student of Vedanta, asked to initiate him into its mysteries. With the permission of the Divine Mother, Sri Ramakrishna agreed to the proposal, but Totapuri explained that only a sannyasi could receive a teaching of Vedanta. Sri Ramakrishna agreed to renounce the world, but with the stipulation that the ceremony of his initiation into the monastic order be performed in secret to spare the feelings of his old mother, who had been living with him at Dakshineshwar. On the appointed day, in the small hours of the morning, a fire was lighted in the Panchvati. पंचवटी वो जगह थी जहाँ पे कि वो जाते थे अपना मेडिटेशन करने के लिए. Totapuri and Sri Ramakrishna sat before it. The flame played on their faces. Sri Ramakrishna was a small brown man. Ramakrishna was a small brown man with a short beard and brown and beautiful eyes, long dark eyes, full of light, obliquely set and slightly veiled, never very wide open, but seeing half closed a great distance both outwardly and inwardly. His mouth was open over his white teeth in a bewitching smile, at once affectionate and mischievous. Of medium height, he was thin to emaciation and extremely delicate. His temperament was high strung, for he was supersensitive to all the winds of joy and sorrow, both moral and physical. He was indeed a living reflection of all that happened before the mirror of his eyes, a two sided mirror turned both out and in. Wow, wow. Facing him, the other rose like a rock. He was very tall and robust, a sturdy and tough oak. His constitution and mind were of iron. He was a strong leader of men. In the burning flame before him, Sri Ramakrishna performed the rituals of destroying his attachment to relatives, friends, body, mind, sense organs, ego, and the world. The leaping flame swallowed it all, making the initiate free and pure. The secret thread and the tuft of hair were consigned to the fire, completing this severance from caste, sex, and society. मतलब बाल वाल सब कटवा दिए अपने. Last of all, he burnt in that fire with all that is holy as his witness, his desire for enjoyment here and thereafter. He uttered the sacred mantras, giving assurance of safety and fearlessness to all beings who were only manifestations of his own self. The rites completed, the disciple received from the Guru the loincloth and the ochre robe, the emblems of his new life. The teacher and the disciple repaired to the meditation room nearby. Totapuri began to impart to Sri Ramakrishna the great truths of Vedanta. Brahman, he said, is the only reality, ever pure, ever illumined, ever free, beyond the limits of time, space, and causation. Though apparently divided by names and forms through the inscrutable power of Maya, that enchantress who makes the impossible possible. Brahman is really one and undivided. When a seeker merges in the beatitude of samadhi, he does not perceive time and space or name and form. The offspring of Maya, whatever is within the domain of Maya, is unreal. Give it up, destroy the prison house of name and form, and rush out of it with the strength of a lion. Dive deep in search of the self and realize it through samadhi. You will find the world of name and form vanishing into the void, and with the puny ego dissolving in Brahman consciousness, you will realize your identity with Brahman, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Quoting the Upanishad, Totapuri said that knowledge is shallow by which one sees or hears or knows others. This is very beautiful. ये बता रहे हैं कि नॉलेज जो है, अगर आप केवल नॉलेज पे जाओगे तो नॉलेज बहुत शैलो चीज है. जिससे कि आप सामने वाले को सुन के समझ सकते हो, अगर आप सिर्फ नॉलेज पे जाओगे तो। What is shallow is worthless and can never give real felicity. But the knowledge by which one does not see another, or hear another, or know another, which is beyond duality, is great. And through such knowledge, one attains the infinite bliss. How can the mind and senses grasp that which shines in the heart of all as the eternal subject? Totapuri asked the disciple to withdraw his mind from all objects of the relative world. तो क्वेश्चन बहुत अच्छा था रामकृष्ण का, कि कैसे जो है जो कि सेंसेस की परे है उससे कैसे एक्सपीरियंस किया जा सकता है। ऑब्वियसली बात है, इतना कुछ बड़ा बड़ा जो लिखा हुआ है, कैसे एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे उसको। लेट्स चेक। Totapuri asked a disciple to withdraw his mind from all objects of relative world, including the gods and goddesses, and to concentrate on the absolute. But the task was not easy even for Sri Ramakrishna. He found it impossible to take his mind beyond Kali, the divine mother of universe. After the initiation, Sri Ramakrishna once said, describing the event, Nangta began to teach me the various conclusions of the Advaita Vedanta and asked me to withdraw the mind completely from all objects and dive deep into the Atman. But in spite of all my attempts, I could not altogether cross the realm of the name and form and bring my mind to the unconditioned state. I had no difficulty in taking the mind from all objects of the world, but the radiant and too familiar figure of the blissful mother, the embodiment of the essence of pure consciousness, appeared before me as a living reality. Her bewitching smile prevented me from passing into the great beyond. Again and again I tried, but she stood in my way every time. In despair, I said to Nangta, it is hopeless. I cannot raise my mind to the unconditioned state and come face to face with Atman. He grew excited and sharply said, what? You can do it? But you have to. He cast his eyes around. Finding a piece of glass, he took up and struck it between my eyebrows. Concentrate the mind on this point, he thundered. Then, with stern determination, I again sat to meditate. As soon as the gracious form of the Divine Mother appeared before me, I used my discrimination as a sword and with it clove her in two. Discrimination, not actual imaginative sword, but discrimination as a sword and clove her into two. The last barrier fell. My spirit at once soared beyond the relative plane and I lost myself in samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna remained completely absorbed in samadhi for 3 days. Is it really true? Totapuri cried out in astonishment. Is it possible that he has attained in a single day what it took me 40 years of strenuous practice to achieve? Great God, it is nothing short of a miracle. With the help of Totapuri, Sri Ramakrishna's mind finally came down to the relative plane. Totapuri, a monk of the most orthodox type, never stayed at a place more than 3 days, but he remained at Dakshineshwar for 11 months. He too had something to learn. Totapuri had no idea of the struggles of ordinary men in the toils of passion and desire, having maintained all through the life the guilelessness of a child. He laughed at the idea of man's being led astray by the senses. He was convinced that the world was Maya and had only to be denounced to vanish forever. A born dualist, he had no faith in personal God. He did not believe in the terrible aspect of Kali, much less in her benign aspect. Music and the chanting of God's holy name were to him only so much nonsense. He ridiculed the spending of emotion on the worship of personal God. Now, Kali and Maya. Sri Ramakrishna, on the other hand, though fully aware, like his guru, that the world is an illusory experience, instead of slighting Maya like an orthodox monist, acknowledged its power in the relative life. He was all love and reverence for Maya, perceiving in it a mysterious and majestic expression of divinity. To him, Maya itself was God, for everything was God. It was one of the faces of Brahman. See, for Ramakrishna, even Maya was God. Everything was God. It was one of the faces of Brahman. What he had realized on the heights of transcendental plane, he also found here below, everywhere about him, under the mysterious garb of names and form. And this garb was a perfectly transparent sheet through which he recognized the glory of the divine eminence. Maya, the mighty weaver of the garb, is none other than Kali, the divine mother. She is a primordial divine energy Shakti, and she can no more be distinguished from the supreme Brahman, and again, and can the power of burning be distinguished from fire. She projects the world and again withdraws it. She spins it as a spider spins its web. She is the mother of the universe, identical with the Brahman of Vedanta and with the Atman of Yoga. As essential lawgiver, she makes and unmakes laws. It is by her imperious will that the karma yields its fruit. She ensnares men with illusion and again releases them from bondage with a look of her benign eyes. She is the supreme mistress of cosmic play, and all objects animate and inanimate dance by her will. Even those who realize the absolute in Nirvikalp Samadhi are under her jurisdiction as long as they still live on the relative plane. See, even those who realize the absolute of Nirvikalp Samadhi are under her jurisdiction as long as they still live on the relative plane. Thus, after Nirvikalp Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna realized Maya in an altogether new role. The binding aspect of Kali vanished from before his vision. She no longer obscured his understanding. The world became the glorious manifestation of the Divine Mother. Maya became Brahman, the transcendental itself, Big Four, broke through the immanent. Sri Ramakrishna discovered that Maya operates in the relative world in two ways, and he termed these Avidya Maya and Vidya Maya. Avidya Maya represents the dark forces of creation. See, Avidya Maya represents the dark forces of creation, sensuous desires, evil passions, greed, lust, cruelty, and so on. It sustains the world system on the lower planes. It is responsible for the round of man's birth and death. It must be fought and vanquished. But Vidya Maya is the higher force of creation, the spiritual virtues, the enlightening qualities, kindness, purity, love, devotion. Vidya Maya elevates man to the higher planes of consciousness. With the help of Vidya Maya, the devotee rids himself of Avidya Maya. He then becomes Mayatita, free of Maya. The two aspects of Maya, Avidya and Vidya Maya, are the two forces of creation, the two powers of Kali, and she stands beyond them both. She is like the effulgent sun, bringing into existence and shining through and standing behind the clouds of different colors and shapes, conjuring up wonderful storms, wonderful forms in the blue autumn heaven. The Divine Mother asked Sri Ramakrishna not to be lost in the featurelessness. See, the Divine Mother asked Sri Ramakrishna not to be lost in the featureless absolute, but to remain in the Bhavamukh, on the threshold of relative consciousness, the borderline between the absolute and the relative. He was to keep himself at the sixth center of the Tantra, from which he could see not only the glory of the seventh, but also the divine manifestations of the Kundalini in the lower centers. He gently oscillated back and forth across the dividing line. Ecstatic devotion to the Divine Mother alternated with serene absorption in the ocean of absolute unity. He thus bridged the gulf between the personal and the impersonal, the immanent and the transcendent aspects of reality. This is a unique experience in the recorded spiritual history of the world. Wow, truly. बाय द वे सिक्स सेंटर जो है आप लोगों को मैं मतलब बता दूं कि सेवन सेंटर के हिसाब से जो सिक्स सेंटर होता है उसको बोलते हैं आज्ञा चक्रा या अजना चक्रा बोलते हैं उसको। तो डिवाइन मदर ने इनको बोला था कि तुम जो है अपने अपना फोकस हमेशा यहाँ पे रखना ताकि तुम ऊपर का भी ब्लिस ले पाओ एंड कुंडलिनी जो 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 नीचे काम कर रही है या जो फॉर्म बना रही है उसको भी यू कैन अप्रिशिएट दैट ऑल्सो। Totapuri's lesson. From Sri Ramakrishna, Totapuri had to learn the significance of Kali, the great fact of of the relative world, and of Maya, her indescribable power. One day, when Guru and disciple were engaged in an animated discussion about Vedanta, a servant of the temple garden came there and took a coal from the sacred fire that had been lighted by the great ascetic. He wanted it to light his tobacco. Totapuri flew into a rage and was about to beat the man. Sri Ramakrishna rocked with laughter. What a shame, he cried. You are explaining to me the reality of Brahman and the illusoriness of the world, yet now you have so far forgotten yourself as to be about to beat a man in a fit of passion. The power of Maya is indeed inscrutable. Totapuri was embarrassed. About this time, Totapuri was suddenly laid up with a severe attack of dysentery. On account of this miserable illness, he found it impossible to meditate. One night, the pain became excruciating. He could no longer concentrate on the Brahman. The body stood in the way. He became incensed with with its demands. A free soul, he did not at all care for the body. So he determined to drown it in the Ganges. Thereupon he walked into the river, but lo, he walks to the other bank. It is there not enough water in the Ganges? Standing dumbfounded on the other bank, he looks back across the water, the trees, the temples, the houses, the silhouetted against the sky. Suddenly, in one dazzling moment, he sees on all sides the presence of the Divine Mother. She's in everything. She is everything. She's in the water. She's on the land. She's in the body. She's in the mind. She is pain. She is comfort. She is knowledge. She is ignorance. She is life. She is death. She is everything that one sees, hears, or imagines. She turns ye into ne and ne into ye. Without her grace, no embodied being can go beyond her realm. Man has no free will. He is not even free to die. Wow, man has no free will. He is not even free to die. Yet again, beyond the body and the mind, she resides in her transcendental absolute aspect. She is the Brahman that Totapuri had been worshipping all his life. Totapuri returned to Dakshineshwar and spent the remaining hours of the night meditating on the Divine Mother. In the morning, he went to the Kali temple with Sri Ramakrishna and prostrated himself before the image of the mother. He now realized why he had spent 11 months at Dakshineshwar. Bidding farewell to the disciple, he continued on his way enlightened. Hmm. We will read this later on because this is a different section. So, page number 44, we will start reading later on. Let's do a beautiful closing prayer. To the Supreme God, to the great Divine Father and the great Divine Mother, thank you for your great blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. To our great spiritual teacher, to all the great spiritual teachers, to all the great gods and goddesses, to all the great, great ones, we very, very humbly thank you for your great blessings. To the great teacher Sri Ramakrishna and to all his great disciples. We thank you for your great blessings. Thank you. So I'm hoping you guys learned something about Vedanta and you're also inspired to meditate. God bless all of you. Take care. Bye bye. Have fun. See you next time. Yeah. Bye.